My family and I had just moved to a new city a few months ago due to my job transfer. It was a challenging adjustment, especially for our young children, as they had to leave their friends and the familiar surroundings behind. However, I was determined to make this transition as smooth as possible, so I made an effort to get to know our new neighbors and integrate our family into the community. One day, while I was out running errands, my wife called me in a panic. She told me that our neighbors, a couple we had met shortly after moving in, had taken our daughter to their Halloween party without our permission. I was immediately concerned and rushed home to understand the situation better. When I arrived, my wife was visibly upset. She explained that our neighbors, let's call them Tom and Sarah, had been overly friendly and attentive towards our family, especially our daughter. They had made several attempts to invite us to their home and even tried to coordinate our children's Halloween costumes, which we had politely declined as we didn't celebrate the holiday. The final straw came when Tom and Sarah showed up at our doorstep with costumes for our daughters, insisting that they join their Halloween party. My wife firmly told them no, but somehow they managed to convince our daughter to go with them. Understandably, my wife was furious and called the police out of concern for our child's safety. When the police arrived, the situation escalated further. Tom and Sarah claimed that they were simply trying to include our family and that they meant no harm. They argued that it was a cultural difference, as they were accustomed to such community gatherings. The police advised us to handle the situation through mediation at our daughter's school, rather than involving law enforcement. In the aftermath, the school principal and our daughter's teacher tried to mediate the conflict. They suggested that Tom and Sarah's behavior stemmed from grief, as they had lost children in the past, and that they were simply trying to connect with our family. The teacher also mentioned that it was not unusual for them to assist students with costume changes and other activities. While I could understand the cultural differences and the principal's perspective, I couldn't shake the feeling that Tom and Sarah's actions were inappropriate and made my family deeply uncomfortable. Their persistent attempts to insert themselves into our lives, despite our clear boundaries, left me feeling uneasy and protective of my family. As the days passed, the situation only seemed to worsen. Tom and Sarah continued to approach our daughter on her way to and from school, and they even showed up at the local store trying to interact with her. My wife and I felt like we were being constantly monitored and harassed, and we grew increasingly concerned for the safety and well-being of our children. The final straw came when Tom and Sarah confronted us in the park, demanding to know why our daughter was being kept away from them. At that point, I felt that we had no choice but to take more drastic measures to ensure our family's security. Reluctantly, my wife and I made the difficult decision to temporarily move our family to a hotel while we figured out our next steps. The constant harassment from Tom and Sarah had become too much, and we felt that our children's safety was at risk. As we settled into the hotel, I contacted the local police department again, providing them with a detailed account of the incidents and the ongoing harassment. The officers acknowledged the seriousness of the situation and promised to follow up, but they also cautioned us that without a clear threat of violence, their options were limited. Frustrated by the lack of immediate action, I decided to reach out to the school principal directly. I explained the situation in detail, expressing my concerns about the safety of my family and the inappropriate behavior of Tom and Sarah. The principal was deeply concerned and promised to take immediate steps to address the issue within the school community. Over the next few days, the principal followed through on her word. She spoke with Tom and Sarah, making it clear that their actions were unacceptable and would not be tolerated. She also informed the school staff and other parents about the situation, urging them to be vigilant and report any concerning behavior. To our relief, the harassment from Tom and Sarah seemed to subside for a while. We were able to return home and resume our daily routine, although the lingering anxiety and fear remained. My wife and I tried our best to reassure our children and provide them with a sense of safety and stability. However, our reprieve was short-lived. One day, while my wife was running errands with our youngest, she encountered Tom and Sarah at the local store. They approached her, attempting to engage in conversation and even tried to touch our baby's hair, despite my wife's clear discomfort and attempts to distance herself. Shaken by this encounter, my wife called me immediately, and I rushed home to be with my family. We knew that we couldn't continue living in this constant state of fear and uncertainty. It was time to take more drastic action. That evening, as a family, we made the difficult decision to relocate to another city, far away from the reach of Tom and Sarah. It was a bittersweet decision, as we had just begun to establish roots in our new community, but the safety and well-being of our children had to be our top priority. The process of uprooting our lives was challenging, both logistically and emotionally. We had to navigate the complex bureaucratic hurdles of transferring my job, finding a new home, and ensuring a smooth transition for our children. Throughout this process, I remained in constant communication with the school principal, providing her with updates and seeking her guidance. As the moving date approached, I reached out to a few trusted neighbors whom we had grown close to, confiding in them about our situation. I was grateful to find that they were understanding and supportive, promising to keep an eye on our home and collect any mail or packages in our absence. On the day of our departure, as we loaded the last of our belongings into the car, I couldn't help but feel a sense of relief mixed with a tinge of sadness. We were leaving behind a community that had initially welcomed us, but the actions of Tom and Sarah had shattered that sense of belonging. I knew that starting over in a new place would be challenging, but the safety and well-being of my family were the most important considerations. As we drove away, I couldn't help but wonder what the future held for us. Would we be able to find the same sense of community and belonging in our new home? Would Tom and Sarah ever stop their harassment, or would we forever be looking over our shoulders? Only time would tell, but in that moment, I was determined to focus on the well-being of my family and the opportunities that lay ahead. As we settled into our new home in the distant city, I couldn't help but feel a mixture of relief and uncertainty. While the physical distance from Tom and Sarah provided a much-needed sense of security, the emotional toll of the ordeal still lingered. In the weeks that followed, my wife and I worked tirelessly to make our new house feel like a home. We unpacked boxes, arranged the furniture, and tried to create a comfortable and welcoming environment for our children. It was a welcome distraction from the turmoil we had left behind, but the memories of the harassment and our hasty departure were never far from our minds. One of the most challenging aspects of our relocation was helping our children adjust to the change. They had been uprooted from the only home they had ever known, leaving behind friends, teachers, and the familiar routines they had grown accustomed to. My wife and I made a concerted effort to provide them with as much stability and support as possible, reassuring them that this was a fresh start and an opportunity to make new memories. As the days turned into weeks, we slowly began to find our footing in the new community. Our children adapted surprisingly well, making new friends and embracing the excitement of discovering their surroundings. I, on the other hand, struggled to let go of the lingering anxiety and paranoia that had become a constant companion during our ordeal with Tom and Sarah. Whenever I heard an unfamiliar noise or saw a stranger on the street, my heart would race, and I would find myself scanning the area for any potential threat. The once welcoming feeling of our new neighborhood was tainted by the lingering fear that somehow Tom and Sarah would find us and continue their harassment. One day, as I was walking our dog in the park, I noticed a familiar-looking vehicle parked nearby. My breath caught in my throat, and I immediately felt the adrenaline coursing through my veins. I quickly ushered my family back home, where we locked the doors and windows, unsure of what to do next. After a tense few hours, the vehicle had disappeared, and we slowly began to relax. I knew that I couldn't continue living in this state of constant fear and paranoia, as it was taking a toll on my own well-being and the overall happiness of our family. Determined to regain control of our lives, I reached out to a local counselor who specialized in trauma-informed care. Through a series of thoughtful conversations and guided exercises, I began to unpack the emotions and anxieties that had been weighing me down. The counselor helped me develop coping strategies to manage the lingering fear and work towards a more positive mindset. As I slowly found my footing, I also made the decision to be more proactive in our new community. I reached out to local authorities, providing them with the details of our previous ordeal and requesting additional security measures for our home and neighborhood. The police were receptive to my concerns and assured me that they would keep a close eye on our property and the surrounding area. Gradually, the sense of dread and panic that had once consumed me began to subside. Our children continued to thrive in their new environment, making friends and embracing the adventure of starting over. My wife, too, found solace in the support of our newfound community, as the neighbors rallied around our family to ensure our safety and well-being. As the months passed, I found myself reflecting on the journey we had endured. While the memories of the harassment and the fear would likely never fully fade, I realized that we had emerged stronger and more resilient as a family. We had faced a challenge that tested the very foundation of our lives, and we had come out the other side, determined to create a brighter future for ourselves. Today, as I look around our new home, surrounded by the laughter and joy of my family, I can't help but feel a sense of gratitude and optimism. The scars of our past may never fully heal, but we have learned to embrace the present and look forward to the endless possibilities that lie ahead. This may not have been the path we had envisioned, but it is the one we have chosen to walk together as a family.